Let's take a look at the markets. Good numbers from across the markets we track here in the show. Let's start with the NASD OTC market. I've got here in the studio with me the managing director of the NASD OTC, Mr. Bola Ajomale. He's going to be talking to us about developments in that particular segment of the market. Let's quickly bring him in. Bola, good morning to you, and thank you for coming on the show this morning.
Thank you for having us.
So it's been an interesting time for some of those securities listed on the unlisted securities market. But could you just take us through how they fared since this year began?
Well, since this year began, we've seen some recoveries on some of the larger securities. On WAMCO, for example, we've seen, on Fries and Campina, we've seen an increase of about 10–15% from the beginning of the year up till now. For some of the others, we've seen stagnation on the prices, and for one or two of the oil companies, we've seen actually a slight decline in their prices. But that's not unexpected, because generally oil worldwide now, we're seeing drops in either the prices of the products or in the returns being generated by the companies themselves.
Okay, I was hoping that we could have, the slides of those securities that you're talking about. IGI, there you have it, IGI, CSCS, WAMCO, Friesland Campina, WAMCO Nigeria, that's it, and Afriland Properties and Niger Delta Exploration and Production. These are the top
five.
These are
the trades that are going on, yes, correct.
Going on for, okay, so for yesterday, we noticed that the number of deals came in at 11. It's fluctuated since we started tracking the markets on Monday. On Monday, we saw deals coming in at 16.
Correct.
As it Tuesday, Wednesday, it came down to about 4. So we've seen that, there seems to be some kind of, tepid movement with regards to these unlisted securities. How would you say, going forward, that maybe the macroeconomic headwinds have been affecting these particular securities? Well,
in terms of number of deals, you'll find in total this year we've had a bit short of 200 transactions happen this year so far. And what you'll see is that you'll get those transactions coming in bulks. So on some days you'll get a flurry of activity, and other days you'll get very slow activity. A lot depends on investors, when they're ready to trade, and when they're also buyers on the other end of the market who are willing to take up the shares. What we see happening for the rest of this year, I think, major pressure on all companies, all corporate Nigeria and every part of Nigeria, is obviously the foreign exchange regime we're under and the level of supply. If that changes, then I think a lot of our companies will have, obviously will have stronger productive capacity. If it doesn't change, then I think there would be a lot of pressure on them to substitute their importation for some local sourcing. Now, how much of that can you do? How much substitution can you do? It depends on how nimble the companies are. It depends on what their raw materials are as well.
I noticed you kind of agreed with Bismarck Rwani's statements about the exchange policy as it is. So do something and have a policy, or do nothing and allow the markets determine the fair value of the naira. How will this impact also on the securities, unlisted securities trading?
Well, first of all, I would say it is absolutely critical for you to have a policy, for you to have a direction. The signaling is very important as well. If there is no signal from the government or from the central bank, then the economy may drift, and there may be a lot of speculation. Speculation most times is more destructive than constructive. So I'm definitely in favor of there being a policy. Let it be stated and let everyone know where we're working towards. What would be the impact on the securities themselves if there is no policy? I think there would be, again, speculation, a lot of everybody not having a basis for their assumptions, but just making assumptions all the same, and it's whoever can sell and whoever can buy that will. Leads to a bit of a chaotic situation. I don't think it's very good for the markets.
So in light of that, what's your outlook for 2016?
2016,
That's
I think,
for unlisted securities now.
For some of the unlisted securities, we actually see some interesting developments happening. A lot of private equity is being interested in these companies because they're growth companies. A lot of them are growth companies. So private equity is very interested. They will not get those funding, those funds, unless there's policy direction again. So again, it is critical for us to have a policy. If they do, then there's a lot of investment coming their way. There's a lot of growth coming their way, a lot of development coming their way. And I think for those companies, it's a great outlook.
Wow. Well, thank you so much for coming on the program this morning and shedding more light on what's going on with the unlisted securities market. It's always a pleasure to introduce new stuff into people's knowledge and give them a fair idea that it's not just the broader market that they should be tracking. They should also keep their eye on unlisted securities. Thank you for coming.
Thanks for having us.